Coaches, what's going on? It's Coach Ian Tatum here, back with a Tatum Clinic Series video. And today, a very special guest, a buddy of the channel, Brian Wille. He's offensive coordinator at Fairmont High School in Minnesota. Coach, appreciate you coming on and coming back, talking to us a little bit of 31-32 personnel. Not a lot of people are doing that, so I think it'll be a really good topic to talk about and share with the coaches.
Yeah, first of all, Coach, thanks again for having me back on. Love what you're doing with the channel. Everything that you're doing for the coaching profession, the fraternity is just great. Love seeing this grow, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, man. All right, can we go ahead and share your screen, Coach? We can get rolling with it. I'll go ahead and pass it off to you. We can talk about a little 31-32 personnel.
All right.
All right, you got it, Coach.
All right. Well, folks here, first of all, just super humbled to be part of this. Super excited to kind of talk with you guys a little bit about something that we've been stumbling on the last couple of years, which is our 31-32 personnel package that we have been using to a lot of different degrees of success over the last couple of years. So I'll have all this stuff available for you. If anybody wants to see this presentation or anything like that, I'll have some contact information at the end. You feel free to get a hold of me. I'll share anything that you guys want. I just want to be a servant and help you guys out in any way I can possibly do that. So the way in which I'm going to produce this today is I'm going to talk a little bit about the why and how we came to this stuff. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what we do. It's not going to be everything that we do because I do believe a large portion of how you're going to package this has to be dependent upon your personnel and then what you're comfortable presenting and teaching to your players. So how we got to it will be different than how everybody else got to it. But first, let's talk a little bit about what it is. When we define our 31-32 personnel packages, it's a base offensive package for us with 3 backs, and these 3 backs can be running backs if you like, can be a combination of 1 running back and 2 fullbacks, 1 running back and 2 tight ends, really however you want to personnel your backs, and then having either 1 or 2 tight ends. For us, what we did was we used 1 traditional running back, 2 fullbacks, and either 1 tight end or 2 tight ends. The plays that we run and the genesis of how we created our attack is a blend of the wishbone, single wing, Maryland Eye, Brennan Marion's go-go, and some full house principles. Basically, how we came upon this was I studied a lot of different offenses over the offseason. One of my passions that I like to do is go back and look at what were coaches who were successful before me doing, and I go back as far as I'm able to find. And finding those books, finding those materials gets you an idea of not only what were they running, but why were they running it. And the why was what was super attractive to me. And by getting that philosophy and packaging it with more of our modern schemes, we were able to find a lot of success. So the goal of this whole operation is to create space through condensed formations while also having a systematic approach for creating one-on-ones. You get into a spread offense, a lot of times you're trying to create one-on-ones for your receivers, maybe on a lesser athlete, whether it be a corner, a safety, a linebacker, whomever you've identified as the lesser athlete. We're taking the exact same approach, but we're now doing it in a condensed space. We are looking for who's your worst tackler, and we're going to put either our best offensive lineman or our running back on that person with people to protect them in front. So it might not have as much horizontal space that you're looking for as compared to a spread offense, but we're still going to manufacture some space and give our athlete a one-on-one matchup that we hope that he can take advantage of. So why do we use it? Again, it's to manipulate space. You can manipulate space a variety of different ways. I'm a spread guy by heart. I opened up most of my coaching career early on with air raid principles, empty, 5 wide, all that stuff. And it's really, really good stuff. And we still do a lot of that. But I've morphed to this in large part because it fits our personnel. And the other thing I've realized in the state of Minnesota, when the weather gets cold, especially in November, which is when you're playing your section championship games to go to the state tournament, you got to be able to run the football. And we just weren't efficient out of it in our spread personnel. So this kind of gave us that answer. Now, additionally, this package, all of our base runs can be run out of it. All of our base pass game can be run out of it. And we can all do that with great yield. We don't get that much practice time. We don't get spring ball here. We get a very restricted amount of time in the summer in which to work with our kids. So every play that we decide to install, we want to maximize that yield the best way possible by making sure that if I'm going to practice GT counter, I can run it out of every single formation. If we can't, then we either can't put that formation in or we should find a different run scheme that can be a little bit more malleable to the formations and personnel that we're going to be using. So using that philosophy to get the most yield possible, the then focus of our attention shifts to where can we create the best one-on-one matchups. This gentleman in this picture, number 8, he was a special talent for us. He's going to play at the University of St. Thomas next year. He was our best athlete. We wanted him one-on-one in space with the ball in his hands. So we had to find a way to manufacture that, whether that be through the pass game or whether it be through the run game. But it comes back to this. We're going to run very simple plays. We're just going to present it in multiple ways, which is going to it's kind of become a little more of a common catchphrase, on social media, but it's truly kind of the essence of what we're trying to produce. So if you're going to create a 31-32 personnel attack, the first thing that I would tell you that you need to do is do not get into the mindset of, okay, we're going to be double tight wishbone and we're going to run play A, B, and C. Why? Because that's play A, B, and C. It attacks this, this, and this. Defenses aren't going to always line up the same way. What we found out is when we get into our 31 and 32 personnel package, you can basically throw out the window anything you've seen on film because it's not going to happen. You have different defensive coordinators who have different approaches, different philosophies, and then they also know their talent better than probably we do. So you have to have transferable rules, especially for your interior players, that are going to be able to get them answers to whatever problems the defense presents. That's where we had built things for the longest time. We'd always given our offensive linemen, our fullbacks, our tight ends, we gave them an immense toolbox in which to create answers to the problems the defense presented. What I didn't learn to do until most recently, probably within the last year or two, was to give the quarterback and receivers in this 31-32 personnel attack the same type of tools in their toolbox to answer some of the different issues the defense is presenting. So what we do is we give a lot of different, I guess you could say, ownership to certain plays to different players. And I put a lot of trust in my quarterback that if he doesn't see something, if he doesn't like something, he knows the game plan as well as I do. I'm going to give him keys to make checks. And they're very simple checks to get us into the right play. Also, now when you're building out your approach, besides having answers built in, you got to have answers in the run game that stress each gap in that run game. Because if defensive coordinators can figure out that you do not have an approach to, stressing the C gap or stressing the D gap or anything else other than that, they're simply just going to abandon that run fit and they're now going to find an advantage in a different gap that you may have not already been able to identify. So what we're trying to do is find a way to, for every run, for every presentation, try to pair it with a screen, a play action pass, or something that's going to trigger a response from every player within the run fit. These are just some of the formational variations that we'll use. We'll jump in and out of these things through different shifts. All of our shifts we use are one word. Our shifts tell who's moving and where they're moving to. For this last year, we used car brands. So whether it be Ford or Chevy, Honda, Toyota, we use different shifts that told every player exactly where they're starting and then where they're ending. And that was just part of what we did. Sometimes with that shift, there's a motion that's paired with it. So like a lot of the things that I'm going to show you when we get to the film, you might be seeing a few shifts happening. All that is one word, but they get into these base 5 formations in one way, shape, or form. Now you can see a couple of the labels that I have here. You can use whatever label you want. When we in our offense see a Y, that is defined for us as our inline tight end. That's going to be our guy who's our probably best pass catching tight end, but also he's going to be pretty physical in the run game. Our X wide receiver is usually our boundary wide receiver, especially if we're going like 3-by-1 traditional spread. 3 wide receivers to the field. We want to put the X wide receiver to the boundary to try to manufacture one-on-one matchups with him. Our F is what we label as our running back. Our H is our fullback, and we do that in a lot of sense so that way when we get into like 11 personnel, 20 personnel, this H can be not only a fullback body, but he can also be a tight end body as well. And then we have this J. J can be different depending on the year. We call him the jack. So for example, when we get into like our go-go stuff down here in this formation, you can see here the jack's going to be more of a shifty back, a guy who's more of a pass catching threat. This H in that go-go formation, he's going to be more of our fullback. That's located right there. However, if you go over in this formation, like right over here, this J that's located right here, he's going to again be more of our speed guy. It's more of a single wing approach. But the J here is going to be our best probably blocking fullback on more ISO type stuff. I just tell you that to let you know that you can play with these pieces however you want, but you need to have a purpose for why you're doing what you're doing. So for example, when we get in the go-go and I'm putting this Jay here, he's more of a pass catching threat. The reason we're doing that is because at some point in time, he's going to be running some form of an arrow. You want to call it a pre-snap RPO, anything like that. He's got to be able to catch the ball. Whereas if you come over to this Maryland I formation up here, the reason that Jay's more of a fullback, we're not asking him to do a lot of pass catching out of that. He might run some flat routes on some boots, but he's going to be more so doing a lot of inserting on ISO and power plays. So I just say that for all of you, have a plan of attack. So that way, when you start getting into like the actual application of the scheme, you have answers built in for your personnel strengths. Here's our base run game off of it. I'm not going to inundate you with all of our rules. I'll show the slide for you guys. If you certainly want to go into the details of it, I'd be happy to go with it through you. But we're a power, counter, a couple different ways to counter, GH, GT being our preferred of the two, and then duo scheme. We had dabbled a little bit with some split zone. It just didn't fit our guys. We wanted transferable rules that could transfer to all this stuff. And you look at our power, our counter, our duo, and our jet, we block it using all gap rules. So for example, when you watch us start running some jet clips, our jet, we block like GT counter. So when we start blocking it like GT counter, our guys up front are going to be, selling counter one way and we're running jet the other way. Trying again to give that illusion of complexity, but try to also get the presentation similar to the defense. Because when you start combining elements of schemes, you start creating tendency breakers and you start getting the defense to not trust their keys. As we start going into the approach of how I've built out this offense and this package, you'll notice that we have very systematic reasons for why we run certain plays. And I'll give you all the details of what I'm thinking when I'm calling those plays. But basically what I want to get the defense to do is I want them to either A, abandon their principles, or B, not trust what their eyes are seeing. We got so many defensive coordinators that do a fantastic job coaching up all their players on the scheme. What my job is to make them not trust what they're seeing, not trust what their eyes are seeing, make them doubt what their coach is trying to tell them to do. And if I can do that and get them to play man-to-man football rather than gap sound football or read key football, I believe I've done my job, because now it's just about winning one-on-one matchups. So that's getting into now our sequencing pace. When I think of like the way I sequence our play calls, it's all based off of what am I looking for to then give me the next play in our series. So for example, let's just use GT counter as an example. Say we're running GT counter. The first thing that I'm looking for is who's reading the pullers. Is it the linebackers reading our pullers? Is it the outside backers? Is it the safeties trigger on it? Or is nobody reading our pullers? If nobody's reading our pullers and their eyes are in the backfield, then that's telling me a couple of things. Number one, as many pullers as I want to bring to the party are how many hats I'm going to gain on an advantage on the play side. Additionally, it's also probably telling me if I do some form of a shift or a motion to add hats to the strong side of the formation and then pull some people from the backside to add to that, I'm going to get a numerical advantage. So that's the first thing I'm looking for. Most defenses nowadays are coached up where they're going to have somebody reading the pullers. Usually it's the linebackers. So once you start running enough gap scheme, whether it be power or GT, these linebackers are now going to start just going mad at chasing down the puller whatever way they go. So now once you see now these linebackers pulling, now you got to find a way to make sure that, okay, now I can stress them where they're vacating, whether that be bash sweep, we're a big bash sweep team, or whether it be some form of like a pre-snap RPO where the players that are away from where the pullers are going, they have some form of a block for maybe like an arrow screen or shoot screen, however you want to term that. Let's imagine though that the linebackers then abandon that, and then they start all of a sudden now reading our fullbacks. Because since we have two fullbacks in the game, we can pull two linemen one way, two fullbacks the other way, and continue to equate the numbers equation. So what we'll do is we'll send two linemen one way, but still run a scheme opposite, and the two fullbacks start leading. So once the linebackers say, well, now they're starting giving it to wherever the fullbacks are going, now they'll start reading the fullbacks. Now, if they're starting to read the fullbacks, go back to your GT scheme, go back to your two linemen pulling scheme. Because if you add, again, motion now towards that, you're again going to get a numbers and numerical advantage. And then eventually what will happen, and I'll show you clips of this, eventually good defensive coordinators will say, I need two guys to go read the pulling linemen. I need two guys to go and read the pulling fullbacks. You're now getting man-to-man football on defense, and now you can start playing, where is my one-on-one matchup? That's really what I'm looking for. Once I can get people to play man-to-man football and not selling out to what their keys are telling them, now I've got you exactly where I want, and now I got to hope that my guys are prepared to win one-on-one matchups. All right, so I kind of went through that here. That's kind of what the slide's all about. So now I'm just going to kind of jump in here a little bit with just our power rules. When you see our power here, again, I don't run it any differently to anybody else. These are just a couple of diagrams of how we choose to run it. But our big rules for our linemen, our tight ends, are gap on, linebacker, backside. Again, that's just the progression for whom to block. If there's somebody in the gap, obviously you block it. If there's nobody in your gap, you then ask yourself, is there somebody on you? And when we define on you, we're talking anywhere within the cylinder of your body. And so when there's somebody on you, that tells you either one of two things. Based on the technique, is he on you kind of like an inside shade where you don't need help? If so, you still block him. If he's on you and you can't win leverage on him, that's where you're going to have to call for help. And we have a system for every player to have code words to call from help from different players, whether it be calling for a tackle, help from a guard is going to have a different term than calling for help from a tackle or a fullback, or excuse me, a tight end or a fullback. And then if there's nobody in your gap, there's nobody on you, then you're going to look to help and carry a double team to a linebacker backside. And we define backside as anything past the center. So you can see there's kind of like our rules. You can see kind of how we try to insert players for the play side, and then also what we do with our extra fullbacks. Again, I try to account for about 9 guys within the box when we're trying to get in 31, 32, and then hopefully find a way to insert that 10th player in so I can get either a one-on-one with our X or potentially, find a one-on-one matchup elsewhere. So we're going to dive into the film. I have a bunch of clips from the power and counter and all these other runs. I'm not going to go through all of them with you guys, but again, if you want to see any of them, reach out to me. I'm happy to share the cut-ups with you. So we're just going to start here just in the most basic here of looks. This is our 2 fullback presentation. So when our quarterback's coming up, the first thing I'm asking him to do is he needs to count the box. When he's counting the box, if he's seeing 9, he's then telling himself, I have 6 guys up front, 7 and 8 right here. I'm 1 short in the run game. So then he has to ask himself, okay, well, what kind of a 9 is it? Is it 9 in which there's a guy playing at depth at about 8 yards? Or is it 9 where that 9th guy is inserted on one side or the other? If there's a 9th guy inserted on one side or the other, his check should be, I'm going to now check to quarterback run. So let's say, for example, I got power called to the right in this situation. And let's say he thinks this 9th player over here is within the run scheme. And we have some parameters for that. I'm not going to go into that with you right now, but we all have our own different details on how we want to define that for our quarterback. If he sees this player inside and counts him as 9, he's going to make a call just to the running back, either with a hand signal or the code word, and he's now going to become the extra filler that's going to insert, and his job to insert is going to be usually for wherever this 9th guy is going to insert. So that's one thing that he can do. Additionally, when he's getting that 9th guy inserting into the box, if he thinks that creates leverage out here to our wide receiver, he can simply check into whatever our pre-snap access throw is going to be. With us, a lot of our access throws are either a hitch convert, so 5-yard hitch. If he's pressed or has a defender within 5 yards, he's converting that to a fade, or we have a speed out convert. Same kind of rules, but we're doing a speed out attached over here, with usually the speed out being about 3 to 5 yards, depending on the player. So he's coming up right now. He's defining this box as 8. He's saying we're good because we got 6 here, 7 and 8. So we're hat for hat. He doesn't see this guy as any kind of a threat, and so he just hands the ball off. But you can see with our quarterback, he's if you kind of watch it from the beginning here, he's scanning to look around. The play starts here a little bit late, but he's looking around to try to get an idea in terms of how many guys are in the box. Now you'll see here, when we're 8 for 8, we got to kick, stay tight to the wrap, and we don't even block this great. But the 9th guy who fits into here, we're able to collect with the extra guy that we're bringing to the front side because we have a second fullback. He's the +1 in our run scheme. We're fortunate to have that, but when you get in 31, 32 personnel, these guys can only defend it so many ways. The natural inclination for a lot of coaches is, I see a lot of guys inside the box, so then I'm going to build a lot of guys in the box. And that's actually good for us because there's only so many lanes these guys can go through when trying to fit certain run schemes. There's only so many gaps they can fit. Well, when all of a sudden now you're adding a gap at the tight end, and in reality, we can add a fullback out here and add another gap. If they don't adjust, you're just creating all this space outside for our running backs to bounce it to once they clear the hole and once we get the necessary defenders accounted for. So you can see when we go to the tight here, as things are coming through, he doesn't see this guy as part of the run fit. So now everything in our scheme works out perfectly. We should be working everybody to the backside. Our tight end, you'll see on this play, he gets kind of caught up. We would actually like him to work to the first linebacker backside. You can see he actually comes to this guy right here. I'm never going to fault a kid for passing up bad color on the way to work, but by definition, he should actually be working to this linebacker right here. We should be kicking out with our first fullback, the defensive end. Our pulling guard should account for this player here, and our +1 should account for anything that inserts this side. If nobody were to insert that side, he would then do a U-turn and look back in for any kind of linebacker scraping over the top. And we're okay with that because a lot of times when they're scraping over the top, they're scraping over the top at 6, 7 yards, and that's more than enough of what we're looking at for this football play. If they somehow have found their way underneath, well, then we haven't created a wall good enough and solid enough on our front side, or that's telling us that these guys have worked their way in blitzes to vacate any kind of front side gaps that he's trying to work to. And our guys should have no problems collecting that either. So again, that's part of our process as we're kind of going through and evaluating the situation. Let's skip to kind of so that's like just out of a 2 fullback formation. I can show a bunch of those, but I just want to get different formations so you can see how we block it differently and how we scheme it up differently. So here's one small thing you can do as well. What we'll do is we'll just put both the fullbacks on one side to see if we can get an adjustment. So you can see we put our tight end over here because we knew when we were putting our tight end over here, we were getting a shade. And we wanted a shade either to run counter back this way towards the tight end, or for us, we have no problem playing with the 3 technique towards where our 2 fullbacks are, right here, 1 and 2. So this got the look that we were looking for. If we scheme this up properly, again, you can see that he's counting in the box here 8 guys. He's feeling okay about that. We should have our double here by these 2 gentlemen working this, or excuse me, there won't be a double here. I apologize. We have our center working back. We should have our guard on a solo here as well. Tackle should work all the way back here as well. We should have a kick by the first fullback. Since the second fullback is inserted and he's closer to the line of scrimmage, we tell him then, we want you to take the first linebacker play side, and now the pulling guard is going to be the guy who's going to look for the +1. Okay, so that when we move this over, they exchange responsibilities, and there's a tag we have that for that in our play call, but those things do need to be communicated to your players.
Yeah, Coach, I was going to ask you how that was communicated. I mean, you don't have to get specific, but like they'll just make the double team guys, they'll make a call, or the fullback will make a call. Who's making that call?
We actually, so if I would call this, like we call this formation with the 2 fullbacks Batman. Well, Batman to the strength. So if we go Batman left over here, I'd just say Batman left, and then I'd use the term like weak. And weak would tell these 2 fullbacks formationally that they're going weak. And weak also indicates to the pulling guard that if we're running power, you're going to be the guy who's then going to account for the +1 player, the extra fitter in the D gap.
Okay, cool.
So this was like our 3rd game of the season. You can see we're still not super confident in it because, as you can tell here, our second fullback, number 47 here, as he's coming through, his eyes originally were right here. They're not where they're supposed to be. And so now when 55's pulling around looking for a guy, he's trying to insert here, but he's also wondering, did 47 do his job? And so they end up creating a wall on the inside guy, and it works out for us. But again, it's not as clean as it probably could have been if we just trusted our rules. And again, creating those extra words and tags within your play calls a lot of times gets rid of all that miscommunication. Now, additionally, we're so used to having these, guard and tackle here work on double teams. If they're assuming that double teams are coming and they're not because of a certain alignment by the defensive line, we do have lineman calls that let them know, hey, I'm solo. I think every offensive lineman coach does that, but I'd make sure you have some check in so that way linemen aren't getting into the habit of, oh, well, in power, I always double team if I'm the guard, or I always double team if I'm the tackle, because it's not always going to be that way. And when you get in condensed formations, you get so many weird looks that you can't be assured that it's going to end up that way. So this was just a shift to it. I was going to just talk quick through like my mindset when I'm watching this. I just want to watch the shift. This is something as simple as we're going on our Batman formation and we're going to shift to tight end. So what I'm watching as a coordinator here is I'm watching what are these 4 guys doing, and then my guy up in the booth is watching what are these 4 guys doing. If we don't see any movement, we're going to run it again, and we're going to continue to insert somebody at the point of attack. So you can see all they did was they showed their blitz a little bit early. That's it. The gaps didn't change. These three guys right here didn't adjust. So that told us at this point in time, they didn't have a check to our motion. We can get whatever we want play side because we've added a hat play side for us. Now he bounces it. They spill it really well. They're a really good tackling team, very well coached. We still get 5 or 6 yards. So for us, we accomplished the intent of the play. The other thing I think about too, when you get into the motion stuff and start motioning guys over, have things that come back to when they over adjust, because a lot of these teams are going to over adjust once they get gashed with some sort of a play with a shift or a motion. So make sure when you're building this stuff out, you're also having the guy, whether it be up in the booth or if you're watching some sideline film, have an adjustment to go back in case they do over adjust, which we do. The last thing I want to talk about before I start really ripping through some plays here too is a lot of these plays, we don't get into, like, I don't know if you want to call it your bag or your call sheet or whatever. If it's working with something simple, keep it simple, keep running it. Like in this package, I would say we probably have a package of plays that's, 10, 15 deep. Yet this season, when you go back and look at the numbers, we probably ran 3 or 4 of them. If it's working, continue to run it. The stuff that you have, the layers, I know you spend a lot of time on it, and I know it's good scheme, and I know it's good practice. But at the end of the day, if the good stuff is the base stuff and it's working, don't waste your time getting into all the adjustments because they're just simply not necessary. And that's one of the things you're going to have to really resist the urge to when you get into this stuff, because sometimes the base stuff is good enough and it's all you really need. So here's a little go-go action for you here. We'll do a whole bunch of different stuff with these two running backs, shifting them from different sides, one to the other. But in this case, what we're doing is we're going to be running power to the left, and we're going to be taking the other back and bringing him out here in motion. So now that we have this presentation, now my guy up in the booth is looking at this guy right here. If this guy over here is chasing him, we'll continue to hand the ball off over underneath. If he starts to just ignore it and come underneath, we'll then have a tag where he's going to abandon his access route, and the quarterback will say something to him, whether it be pre-snap hand signal, whether I tag it in the play call, you can do whatever you want, and then we will throw this as a pre-designed access throw. So you'll see it here as I run it. This is just traditional power out of this formation. So you can see here, he's inserting. This is the first time we ran it. The alert I should be getting upstairs is you need to be throwing this ball out. Now, if you're not good at throwing it, you want to more so give the illusion of speed option, do it. That's fine. That's up to you. But then we should be solid up here on the front, because now if he goes out, now it's 1-on-1 with that safety if all the blocks are equal and all of them are done properly. If we did that tag, the one adjustment that I would make is I would try to get my tight end here then to try to seal the outside lineman here. And you know what? It should be pretty easy, because if they've seen power coming downhill over and over and over again, they're probably spilling it anyway. So this is a nice little adjustment to keep people honest again and try to abandon their rules. But again, this is just traditional power. We probably dealt it out here 2 times all season. And I don't know if we got a ton of yards off of recollection, but it's enough to put doubt in that outside linebacker fitter, the D-gap fitter, which sometimes is the guy that's most difficult to account for when it's coming to defended power and counter. So there's kind of the go-go stuff there. I'm going to go one more, and then I'm going to get into our counter stuff. That's kind of where I think our best stuff is. So here's like our Maryland I formation. You can see you got 2 fullbacks stacked over here. We'll sometimes have the back towards and sometimes away. It's really dependent upon the play. You can see how tucked in here our X receiver is. He's doing that because we're in the boundary, just in case he still wants to run this access throw. And with all access throws too, once this guy really starts cheating in, because he's not assuming that that access throw is going to be thrown, that's where you build in that double move too, to have that out and up. Having those, again, answers built in so the quarterback always feels like he has a good play. But again, with something like this, it's interesting how many teams, when you stack fullbacks on the same side, they get nervous of how they need to count it and how they need to count for it. Having just little things like that, you can see here, we got 2 guys stacked upon one another, but these guys haven't adjusted very much. So if we're looking at just towards the strength of the formation here, towards the left, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys for sure on the strength. We have, and this our center is right here, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got them outnumbered. If I want to insert the quarterback to run and now insert the running back, I now have them outnumbered +2. It's simple numbers. If you just kind of look through those small little formational adjustments, see if the defense will adjust. Now, these guys are good and they're well coached. They had an adjustment as the game went on, But the first couple of times we ran this, you're going to get an alignment that looks like this. So maybe for some of you guys, maybe this 31, 32 personnel stuff, it's your short yardage, your goal line package type stuff. And if you don't show it any other times than that, maybe you catch people in a base look and you're just going to outnumber them at the point of attack. You can see it kind of here. This was the year before running against that team. They fit it pretty well. But again, you come back to the start here, look at this corner right here. He's cheating in. He's now inside the box. So this fullback, you can't see it, but he's making a call now to the running back, letting him know, hey, we're going to bounce this thing. I'm going to try to seal the defensive end if he squeezes. Defensive end comes up the field enough. He works outside, and then now he knows I'm going for that corner. And again, that's when you keep things simple, the players will come up with these sorts of adjustments, and they make your job look really, really easy. Okay, so now I'm going to go to more of our counter stuff. When we get to our counter, that's where we do a lot of our bash. We've toyed with bash out of our power stuff. It's a work in progress. We can still do it, but we get more triggering when we pull guard and tackle. When that tackle's hinging backside or when he's trying to lead out as part of the bash scheme, we sometimes don't get the triggering that we need to. But for some reason, when we get into our GT counter, probably because we run this out of almost every formation, it elicits a lot better response. So I'm going to start here. This is just GT. Actually, I'm going to start with this next clip here. It's in our state quarterfinal game. So as I'm sequencing this plays here, this is the first drive of the game. We're going to run GT counter. So you'll see here, our guard and tackle are going to go into the right. Our two fullbacks are going to the left. So as I'm standing over here, I'm watching these two guys. What are they reading? What's their keys here? You can see they actually do it pretty well. Both of them at the first here. This guy back here is playing it a little bit slow. So that told me, you know what? I don't know if they're fully triggering on it, but because he's a little bit slow to it, that means we should have him outnumbered play side. And you can see here in the first time we ran it, got a pretty sizable gain. The other thing I notice here too is this guy here, when he's seeing pull away, here's what his trigger is. He sees pull away, he's trying to squeeze down just in case. Okay, so that's telling me now also if he triggers even harder, now any type of bash coming this way, that'll be the time to call it. It additionally tells me too, any kind of run fake here is going to open up our access throw. So these are all small little things. Assign a coach to do it and look for it. And then the play caller just is the one who then is going to relay the play call. So that's our first one. This is about, I think, a next drive and next series later. One of the things we wanted to do was see what would happen if we took the fullback from here, and you don't see, but we shifted. We moved him down to here. So you can see when we shifted him down here, this guy shortened his splits up a little bit. And now all we're going to do is we're going to bring now this receiver in jet motion to see if we can empty out this guy backside. So here we go. He stays home pretty good. He didn't run with them, so they're clearly not in man, so they're in some form of a zone coverage, which is still useful information. But now we can still hand it off back underneath, still get a pretty good game. Now, again, the reason why we did this, though, is we said, okay, well, if this is cover one or if this is cover zero, given the perception, if we empty out with jet and this guy travels with him, well, now we're going to re-equate the numbers when we bring guys back our way. And we are not opposed to going GT and going super and bringing this guy too. Like, that's all part of the equation. That's all in the toolbox. But you're not going to know how many guys you need until you add a motion, until you add a shift, and see what their rules tell you. Now look at these two middle linebackers. Remember the last drive? This last guy here was a little bit harder to trigger. Now this time he's seeing these guys pull, and he's actually kind of keying more so on this guy. He's not as heavy triggering back towards this counter. So again, whether that be the motion, whether that be his trigger or his key was different, I'm not 100% sure. But now I'm building in answers to, well, if they do this, I'm going to do that.
Hey, Coach, on your shift on this play right here, is your wide receiver, he's automatically off, or are you sitting the guy up and then you moving him off?
Well, we tried it, started on and moving off. We got a bunch of penalties from it. We just, because a quarterback gets started a little bit too soon with his cadence. So what we do now is we have him started off, and he lets the guy know off, and then we just shift the fullback on.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So now I'll go a little bit later on in the game. So now I'm going to go back to this play here quick. When we ran this jet, the other thing we have guys looking for is, how are these guys handling the jet? Are they respecting it enough? So watch the trigger here. They're widening it both a pretty decent amount. But we're starting to wonder if we keep handing it off underneath, are they going to really widen with this jet as many times? So we come back next series. And now we just run jet. Still running GT up front. So looking at these two linebackers here, they're slow now. They've seen it a couple different ways. One's going this way. This guy's kind of got feet in mud a little bit. And what we're doing opposite away from it is we're taking, and this is another example where we put that tight end or that fullback back as a tight end and get that shift. Now we're going to pull 1, 2, and the running back with 3. My recommendation and preference always is when we run our bash, I want a minimum of 2, but I love 3 when we're running any kind of bash. 3 makes it more comfortable for me just because it helps the just in case you get a blitz or get somebody misaligning or something like that. 3 makes me more comfortable. So just let you know when I'm game planning bash, I like to have 3 blockers to the best of my ability. Now, our tight end here doesn't do what he's supposed to. I don't know if he heard the play call wrong or whatever. He should be trying to seal this guy. He doesn't, and 24 kind of gets up the field. He easily could have made this play. Oh, sorry, I got my place mixed up. So we hand it back off one more time. I'll show you the play where we hand it off here a little bit later. But again, same theoretical process going on with that as well. Now, here's our bash off it. So now in this one, it's tough to see. I apologize. But in this one, we shifted from those 2. We brought our guy on the line and then now brought the X back in the backfield, and he's now lined up in a split back set. And so now, instead of now running jet to get to our look where we're running bash, we're just going to line him up in the backfield, hand the ball off on bash to him, pull the guards the opposite way. Again, you got one guy now at this point who's reading one of the guards going one way. You got another guy going the opposite way, reading fullbacks. That was my key that said they're in almost a man-to-man key pressure now, or key defense now. If I got this, now it's about putting one-on-one matchups where I believe my guy can beat your guy. And in this case, our guy makes a play with the space that he's provided, results in a huge gain. At that point in time, you've done, in my opinion, all that you can as a coordinator, and now it's about protecting it. Now it's about putting more seeds of doubt in the defense so that way they're even slower footing. So this is the literal next play. We run the exact same thing. And now you can see this guy isn't doing the exact same thing. Because before in the last play, he was trusting his key and he was going this way. I'm guessing because of recency bias, he abandons it. That then tells me, hey, next series, come back to some of your misdirection stuff. So when you're constantly going back and forth with that, they're going to eventually start guessing. And when they start guessing, again, you're doing a really good job as a coordinator. You can add a quarterback run to it as well. This one doesn't turn out all that well, but I'm just telling you we have it. So now you think if they're starting to key on the running back, if he goes one way or the other, you can run your quarterback back the opposite way. Here we have numbers. I'd like it if you'd bounce out a little bit, but that inside linebacker reads it really well. So now we're at a numbers disadvantage. Our quarterback tries to cut it back, but it doesn't work out great for him. All right. There's another example of that as well. So now here's it out of go-go. So in this case, now we're running more of our not GT counter, but we're running more our guard, our GH counter, if you will. And when we run GH counter, especially out of this go-go, the +1 that we get comes from this player right here, our jack. So now he's going to have some patience in his insert. You can tell here he gets there a little bit too quick. He almost kicks out the guy before the guard can even get there. What we would prefer is him taking almost like a delayed hop step, let this guy kick, and then get hip to hip with this guy as he's coming through. And then that's going to be kind of how you insert through the gap. But you can see this is early on in the season. He inserts a little bit too quick. Part of the reason why things get a little bit jumbled up. Later on in the game or later on in the season, we now add a quarterback doing it. So now, instead of just having this guy lead, the quarterback's going to say, I want the fullback, or excuse me, the running back to lead as well. So now, patience, all 3 of them come through, get through the hole, and go. Again, simple little things. Nothing changes for our players. It's the same rules. We're just figuring out how many guys that we're adding. So like for us, we have simple tags. I'll tell you this tag. So like for this one, if we're pulling the guard and the fullbacks, the tag we have on it is rage. And rage stands for running backs. So we say any running backs and guards. Okay, so any running backs would include fullbacks. So he's pulling, and he's pulling. They just know I hear rage added onto our tag for it. Then we're doing that. If we added rat stands for running backs and tackles. So now however many running backs are coming, they're pulling along with the tackles. So again, simple tag, but it adds a lot then for our guys, makes it really easy to teach. All right. So again, this is just all these clips. One other little thing you can do, they're going to start assuming if you don't vary things up that in certain plays, this guy's going to get the ball, certain plays, this guy's going to get the ball. So we like to add some small, simple little motions. So we'll add this little shuffle motion, kind of like what McCaffrey used to do with the Niners. Josh Jacobs running with LaFleur. We'll motion him out. He'll run the arrow. If we want to run the RPO access, this guy will run counter back that way. Or we can do this, motion him over to get the stack look. And now we're running GH back this way, and it makes the timing a little bit easier. Guard kick. You can see again this jack didn't insert where he should be inserting through here for 1 and for 2. He doesn't get there, but again, still creates a nice crease for us to get a positive yard. All right, so some duo here. Duo, again, a couple clips. I'm going to show you some jet, and then we'll kind of leave it up for some questions if you have any. Duo for us, if we're having any kind of fullback, we are going to kick out, depending on the look, with the first fullback and insert with the other. It looks more like traditional ISO, the way you kind of all scheme it up. In my opinion, when you get 2 fullbacks in there, or even a singular fullback and running duo, it is base ISO, just a base that will do it. We protect it, though, with what we'll call these fan calls, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But then also we'll wham it every once in a while. We'll wham with the backside fullback and insert with the front side fullback. I don't have any clips of wham on here just because we weren't really any good at it. We have it in, but just something we weren't very successful with. So I'm just telling you we have it in there, but it's not something we're very good with. Here's an opportunity or an example where we're running our duo. So you can see here they're making calls up front. Just simple duo across the board, double teams all the way. Now, the first fullback, so this view is a little bit easier. The first fullback, when we're running in out of our stack here, he's the kick out guy. The second guy is the insert guy, and he should be inserting for the plus linebacker. So if you were to just remove this player and we're running traditional duo, and this guy was based, this would be the guy that our running back is moving off of, his movement key. Okay, well, when you have a fullback in there, we take the movement key away from him and now put the movement key on this fella. So now he's trying to insert for the movement key. If he works over the top, that tells him, okay, then I'm going to work to the next guy outside. So that's kind of what all you've done is just shifted the responsibilities and now just made it for the running back to follow wherever the fullback is telling him. So if you see it from the tight here, we actually don't block this well. But based on the sheer number of people inside here, with the kick out by 44, this is still an A-gap run play for us, so we should be getting the insert right here. Sometimes this double team will cave in the A-gap, which then leads to our little bounce to it, but we don't get the cave here. 40 thinks it's going to bounce out, so he leads out based on kind of what he's reading on this double team. And must have been, too, also what the call is here from the tackle. Tackle is here pretty square. However, now it's the running back in the hole with the play side linebacker. This isn't a great thing for us to do, but if he's able to win one-on-one in the hole and he's able to block the guy out here in the force player, we got a real nice play. And he is able to make a miss, and we get exactly what we're looking for and results in a touchdown. So like having those answers built in is great, but also communicating the intent of the play is super important. So for example, if this defensive lineman was out here, we would have made what's called a fan call. If we get a fan call, he's going to block out and lock it. He's going to block out and lock it. And now that he's seen these two things, we don't need to kick out the end any longer. Now our first fullback's going to insert through for the plus player. Second fullback through is going to insert for still the plus linebacker, the movement key. And then now we should be schooled up as well. The reason why they didn't have this tight end lock here is because he's called into a double team with 65. 65 made a double team call here, which alerts him that this guy now becomes the kick out. So here's just us motioning, or excuse me, shifting to it. This is a really simple shift. It's super effective as well. Start your stacked fullbacks on one side, move them to the other. You can see here, not a ton of movement coming from it. The blitz is still on towards to where they originally lined up. And then now you can see tight end or tackle it here does the fan. First guy inserts, second guy inserts, caves in the wall, and away you go. Having simple motions, having simple shifts. If you don't have experienced linebackers on the defense, if they got a blitz call in, they might not be able to check out of it. And if you can add even tempo with this, they're not going to have an opportunity to check out of it. What we'll do out of this is we'll shift from this tight stuff and we'll get into empty out of it and run real simple base pass game stuff. So that way it stresses them a variety of different ways, and it prevents really good defenses from doing what they're doing, trying to do here, which is bringing in a lot of their heavy personnel stuff and making it a big versus big kind of matchup personnel wise. Well, with this exact same personnel, we're going to get into 3x2 empty and run some of our base quick game out of it and some screens and some quick screens and stuff like that. And now we're having fullbacks out here in space blocking corners. And that's one of their best assets is blocking on slip screens, on now screens, on tunnels, all those type of stuff. So like you can present that dynamic to the teams as well. And I would totally recommend if you invest in this 31-32 personnel stuff, dabble a little bit with that 31-32 personnel, hopping into some form of an empty and just run real basic stuff out of it. You'll get a lot of yield out of that as well. So I think we've probably seen enough duo here. Here's another example of duo in that state game. Again, first guy kick, second guy lead through, cave things down, let the running back make his movement off of here, which would be number 25. See, 25 kind of has got feet in mud. You got so many bodies there. And then now running back bounces it out for a solid gain. All right, so now I'm going to add jet. Jet again, exact same stuff, but all it is just another counter, another way to attack the D gap away. And we basically run jet like we would run bash. So here's that play that I thought I was running before. This was probably the second drive of the game. We had gotten the key that these two guys are flowing hard away towards the guard and tackle on counter. So you can see both of them here. We're getting some pretty good movement triggering that way. So what we do, now you can see our tight end. He heard the call. He's trying to reach. We got 1 and 2 out here. And now it becomes this guy versus the safety coming from depth. That's the matchup we're looking for. So you can see here, we get 2 good blocks out in the perimeter. And you get a good yield out of the game. And it's the same play call. It's good yield. We don't have to really teach a whole lot more. But the defense is now seeing 2 or 3 different things they have to read. They have to read the fullbacks. They have to read the guard and tackle. And now you're adding jet to it, potentially emotion with it. It's almost like triple option football, but not quite. I mean, it really kind of stresses all the defense in a variety of different mediums. So like I have pass game off it. I'm just going to show you 1 or 2 clips. Honestly, we didn't have to get into our pass game a ton out of it just because the run game was so successful for it. But these are some of the things that we have off it. We'll have a set of screens. A play that I really like is your swing screens off of it paired with your GT. I'll draw that up here for you in a second. But then also just having max protection double moves and have all of these things based off of your base concept. So for us, if we're running access throws that are 5-yard outs over and over and over again, then our max protection play action should have some sort of double move off of that, and then a protection to come along with it. So for example, let's get into this picture right here. We've been doing a ton of this over and over and over again. So one of the plays we'll have, this isn't this play, this is a double move. This is a post corner. But one of the plays we'd have off of this is an out and up that we're going to have max protection for, and then a backside crosser with a flat control in case that's not there. So in his mind, what he's looking for is he's looking for this being the 1. It's his first read. If for some reason defense didn't match up to it and we made a bad call, he then can come 2 to 3. So just having things based off of your base pass game that you're not redrawing the wheel up and recreating the wheel in order to do it. This is different. We're running here a post corner off of it with a backside crosser. Why? Because earlier in the game we had tried running a boot in which this guy at a backside post. This guy was running a corner route. This guy was running a shoot route. And what we were trying to do is to get this safety to bite here on our corner route and look for this over the top post. And we had noticed that this guy here, this corner, was playing so hard towards the middle of the field, we couldn't get that. So the natural then response is then we come back to a post corner. So you can see here, token fake. We tell this guy here, you need to delay when it comes into your shoot route. And why? If you trigger too soon, it's not going to be good for timing. He's got to let this post corner develop a little bit. So here, it's on the post. I actually don't like this throw here to the post corner. I would be throwing probably this based on the grass. But hey, if the quarterback thinks he can make the throw, let him throw it and then bring him back to space. Something simple like that. Let's go to this here. Another play you can run out of this that I really, really like. This isn't that play, but you can run some form of a swing screen. So run your GT counter, coming back this way, loop this guy out along with these two, have this guy stutter for a second, and run a delayed swing screen. And if you do that one time, these guys are going to trigger really, really hard. The complement play to that, quarterback GT the opposite way. So again, another layer to get to that same kind of bash presentation, but still getting the same look.
Yeah, Coach, on your access to like double move stuff, are you relying on your wide receiver coach or somebody in the box to be like, hey, the corner is playing down, or it's advantageous for us to do that? Or are you having the kids be like, hey, coach, this is happening?
Two things. I usually rely on the guy in the box. That's one of his jobs and what he's doing. So he knows if we're running a run scheme, he knows what his read keys are from the box standpoint. If I'm getting into pass game stuff, that's kind of what his read key is too. And then honestly, the other part is when I go in between series, when I'm looking at the huddle sideline or whatever, I'm kind of peeking at it as well. But I do take a lot of feedback from this guy right here. Like he's constantly assessing the technique he's playing on. And so, for example, this guy was big into hand signals. He would give a hand signal to the quarterback pre-snap that let him know either, hey, I'm running the access or I'm running the double move off it. Mm-hmm. If he gets the hand signal, so maybe it's a closed fist, maybe it's him touching his towel or whatever, and he looks and's like, you know what? I don't see anybody over top. I'm in. Like I'm totally into the throwing the double move. He then has to communicate to these guys, hey, we're not running that GT anymore. It ain't happening. So then he has a code word to these guys that lets them know, hey, we're max protection. I'm going to rip it.
Gotcha.
So in this play, you can see, let's see if, I don't know if I have it on camera. On this one, we had originally the access throw on, but he wants to run a post. He thinks this guy is really playing over top hard. So one of the, I wouldn't call it a double move, but one of the tools in his toolbox is he can run just like a deep glance route off of it. Mm-hmm. So he's made a signal to him, letting him know. He's made the code word through as well. This guy over here gets the exact same code word, knowing, okay, well, if he's not running this deep glance, the guy that I'm worried about is the safety inserting. So I got to find a way to hold on a grab corner over here. He unfortunately stumbles coming out of this, as you'll see. But the reason there's no play fake is because, again, this was communicated by the receiver. He'll stumble, sets him up, does exactly what he's supposed to do, holds the guy over here, and he wins a one-on-one.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's kind of our stuff in a nutshell. Again, this is just an example right here of him again. Now, look at, you can see she's touching his back here. That's a signal. That's a signal of, hey, I'm running the fade now. Okay, you signal it, quarterback saw it, used the word, throws the fade. Like it's really simple football. It's not overcomplicated. But again, 2-3 years ago, I wouldn't have given our quarterback and receiver this right. For some reason, I didn't trust them, yet I somehow trusted our linemen. You got to get over that if you're going to want to get these type of yields from your players.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I don't know if I have my email on here. But basically my email would be my first and last name. I can get it out to you at fairmont.k12.mn.us. But the easiest way to get a hold of me, coaches, is right down here on my Twitter at Coach Brian Wille. I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But in a lot of those things, I will answer those faster than any kind of emails that I'm going to get.
Yeah, and I'll have Coach's information in the description of the video. Make sure you hit him up. Follow him on X. I definitely will reach out to you, Coach. I've been taking pictures and sending it to buddies of mine because a good friend of mine here in North Carolina, he runs a lot of 32 stuff and a lot of double sniffer formations, and so he was like, I got a video for you. So it's going to be really, really good, Coach. I really appreciate the video. I love heavy personnel. Obviously I love power and counter. So and bash is my favorite tag. So watching this was great, and I love your go-go stuff. I really want to hop into more go-go. I feel like it's just more variations you can get from it, and it's just teams don't see it, right? Obviously they don't. Obviously they don't see 32, 31, but they really don't see running backs from the same side, and then you can change responsibilities from there. So great video. Love what you've done. Can't wait to get it out, and I'm sure you're gonna have a ton of questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to, because guys, I'm just telling you from our standpoint, everybody thinks Minnesota is this 31, 32 personnel, pro eye type stuff. We're like everywhere else now. Everybody's lining up in 2x2, and 10 personnel. And that's what they're drawing up on base defense against. They ain't drawn up against 31, 32 personnel. So having a package like this is super advantageous for different scenarios throughout the season.
No doubt. Well, Coach, I really do appreciate you. You guys, make sure you hit up Coach, and he will definitely get back to you. But appreciate you doing that, and we'll check you next time.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.